This week in Grace's Girls Club, we are meeting with someone out of this world, or at least someone whose job it is to send other people out of this world. I want to introduce you to our newest member of Grace's Girls Club. Welcome. Please tell us your name and what it is you do for a living.
Hi, my name is Saturynn Grace, and I am a safety engineer for an aerospace company in this town.
Exactly. And I love your last name. Just got to say it.
Oh, yes.
So walk me through your day-to-day job.
I currently work on the NASA's Space Launch System program as a safety engineer, focusing on the core stage. That's the massive section of the rocket that holds the engines and the fuel. My day to day involves identifying potential hazards, understanding their causes, and figuring out how to mitigate them. So I coordinate with a lot of engineers across different disciplines and work to make sure everything aligns to the mission's performance.
So what might be some of those issues that you have to problem solve every day?
Oh, every day. So things pop up maybe in manufacturing or just, maybe a design doesn't work just as well, on paper as it might be once we get it out onto the floor. So just identifying, how do we get everything to work together, and then we go and talk to the teams and figure out, what's the background behind it and whatever our mitigations for those.
Very cool. So of the letters in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, which of those would you say you use most?
Oh, so tough question because I think as a safety engineer, we're looking at the whole. I'm looking at basically the whole rocket.
Mhm.
Assessing risk, analyzing the design. So that's all a big part of engineering. But science and technology are, just a big part, especially when we're looking at how maybe materials react and the different chemical properties for different pieces of the rocket. So it's all about putting all that together and understanding, using those engineering principles to um, better understand what we're doing and how uh, to apply them to our day to day.
Absolutely. And I like what you touched on, especially from a safety standpoint, that chemical component is probably absolutely key. So kind of goes back to that interdisciplinary workplace that you were discussing earlier. So educationally, how did you get to where you are today? And then walk me through what advice you might have for someone else that's looking to follow in your footsteps, what educational advice you might have for them.
Okay. So I went to the University of Alabama, and I received a bachelor's degree in aerospace engineering with minors in mathematics and mechanical engineering. So it took me a little bit of time to get through. It usually takes about 4 to 5 years, but while I was there, I was able to join a CubeSat team and work in a research lab to further develop my skills and get a lot of hands-on engineering and problem solving. And actually, we actually took a couple of trips, was able to make some connections through the NASA days at UA and be able to come to the Space and Rocket Center and to the ISS. So those experiences really helped to bring together where I think I am now, especially with the CubeSat. I had a great professor in college Dr. Branham, who was able to really get us started and even take us to the Air Force Institute of Technology in Ohio. And that really gave a good basis of working with a team and developing those skills and learning how different systems interact with each other. So I would say, just going towards, getting involved in STEM things. And if you're loving, problem solving or just curious, engineering is a great field to be in for developing your career and just having, if you have a love of science and just curious about anything, it's a great career to be in.
So I do want to ask you though, pertaining to your job, who might be someone who would be a good candidate for this field? If I was talking about being an on-camera meteorologist, I would say someone who manages their time very well, someone who's very scientific, right? The thermodynamics, the calculus, the physics, but someone who has a big personality and enjoys sharing that with the world. Those might be the characteristics of someone who would be really successful in my field. What might those characteristics be for someone to be successful in your field?
My field, so I would say I uh, really just got introduced to being a safety engineer. My previous roles have been software engineering and systems engineering, and I think that has been able to shape my world into going into safety engineering. Just being curious about how things work, and just knowing that there are problems um, that are ongoing that aren't solved overnight. So if you're a person who likes to keep on digging, likes to keep on looking into the background, I like to say that I get into rabbit holes on YouTube looking up things. I learn a new thing and I want to know all about it. So I think those are good traits for, especially in systems engineer or system safety engineering, because you're not just focused on one thing. And I really love that part about this role is that I'm not just in one corner, just working on just a particular part of the rocket. I'm getting to look at the whole rocket and interact with different teams. So if you're a person who, doesn't want to be too high in the treetops of working engineering and don't want to be in the weeds, and I feel like this is a great middle ground for just getting the exposure to so much within engineering.
It really sounds like it. I mean, it sounds like the perfect mixing of both worlds. So you may feel like you just answered this, but if not, it's the perfect segue. What was it that really made you choose this field? Was it kind of getting to play the middle ground of that spectrum, or was it something else?
So I think I kind of just fell into this field. I always knew that I wanted to. Well, let me not say I don't know that I always knew that I wanted to do engineering. I did know that I love space, and my name helps to play a big part of that. I Saturn, but Saturn. So I've always gravitated towards space, and I remember in third grade, given the classic writing prompt, right? What do you want to be when you grow up? And I remember writing an essay about being an astronaut. And at some point later on, I watched Top Gun.
Oh,
I
my
took my,
all-time favorite movie of all time, for
oh
forever.
yes, one answer.
Just
um,
unmatched, unmatched. Now it's like hip to like that movie, but I mean, I was there in the early days.
well, I just remember watching it, as a kid and just being so enthralled. And then of course I had to I love going to air shows. So I go and watch the Blue Angels and the Thunderbirds. And I'm so upset I missed this. I wasn't able to go to this weekend to the Blue Angels,
Yeah.
but, and going to Kennedy Space Center and even here, to the to the Space and Rocket Center here. I think those all help to shape, um, my interest, and I think my parents did a great job of helping to get me involved in those things and not saying no. So when I watched Top Gun, I was convinced I'd be a Navy fighter pilot, right? And then make my way to space. But unfortunately, I don't have great eyesight, so
Oh.
I knew, the next best thing seemed to be engineering. And I joked that, I didn't know what I was signing up for, but in high school, I had a math teacher, Mr. Goins, who was an engineer during his career, and he talked about it, and he was actually encouraged me into going into engineering and even wrote my letter of recommendation. So, even though the classes were tough and, it was a hard journey. I would say engineering is probably not for everyone. You really have to have the stamina to stick it out. It's not a easy immediate reward, but I would say I am so thankful that I stuck with it. I don't know that I would have enjoyed any other field. And I realized that during college that, debated on going to something else, but really I love engineering and solving things and figuring out. And and understanding. And, my YouTube feed probably says a lot to that. I follow so many engineering channels. And, like I said, I love watching aerospace in the news. So I think, just that love for, um, as a field as whole of just learning things has brought me to where I am today.
Yeah, absolutely. And you touched on something that I think is really important, giving your parents the credit for it, but is the exposure that you got as a young child. I think it's so important. A lot of times I feel like we don't throw kids into STEM fields. I think now it's changing, but several years ago, until they were juniors and seniors in high school, and then we expect them to want to be physicists and doctors, and that's just not the way the world works. But getting to have that exposure from a young age and see, oh, this is what's possible, or I could do this, or I could do that. I mean, that's the foundation of what Grace's Girls Club is about. And I love that that's a big portion of where you credit your success and your calling from coming from.
Yes, truly, yes, thankful that my parents allowed me to drag the whole family to museums and to air shows. Same with my boys now. They get to enjoy, and my little one is so enthralled and building things, and it's nice to see. I'm so grateful that they didn't stop me from wanting to explore those fields.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I love to hear that. So, if that's one of the better part of your jobs, it's kind of why you chose the field. What is one of the most challenging parts of your job?
Challenging. So, I've been on this team for about 2 years now, and it's so incredible to see the products as they go from concept to design to being there. And I wasn't there in the beginning. This program has been years in the making. So the challenges that we face, it's no secret that how Artemis, how the SLS rocket is built, is using some heritage hardware. So there are complications that can arise with that, and really just our job as a safety engineer is to identify the issues and work with the various teams to find a solution to those problems. So sometimes that is a bit tough. I've had to learn and develop my skills and how to learn. There's so much information you're presented with, and figure out what I'm looking at, and asking my mentors what is the best approach to this, because I feel like in engineering, and I'm very young in this field. It's figuring out the right questions to ask, figuring out the right people to approach, and to know what you're looking at. And I don't always know what I'm looking at, so you have to go ask for help. So my role is not just about having the answers, but is asking the right questions. One of the biggest challenges that I think that any team has is you have so many people, so many teams working together, and it's bringing all of those perspectives to the table. You don't want to count a voice out. You want to hear everyone. Everybody has great experiences that they're speaking from, and you want that voice to be heard. And I would say my team is very great about doing that. We may butt heads sometimes, but I really feel that our voices, we try to instill each other that our voices are valuable, and that there's no stupid questions. So there's a purpose that's of why somebody has asked that question, and looking at the legacy of the space programs, it is important to keep that in mind. So one thing that to help with remembering the mission is that our astronauts, the crew for Artemis 2, that they are first and foremost in what we do, and that our job is to keep them, um, you know, identify the risk and mitigate them so that they can have and accomplish the mission. And one of the best parts about, I guess, this job, uh, that you mentioned, obviously love the job, was that I got the opportunity to do a meet and greet with the astronauts only 2 months into the role.
Wow.
So that was very exciting for me. And I'm able to, my team keeps a photo of the Artemis crew. in our workspace to remember that is who we do our mission for. That is who we solve the hard problems for.
Yeah, and I love that. It's not just showing up and doing your job and going through the motions. Those are real people that are really depending on you, that really have families, that really want to get home to them. And your ability to do your job well is what gives them the ability to do their job well. So I love that you're looking at that as more than just numbers on a page. You're really humanizing it because it is, in fact, very human. So it's awesome that you're keeping that at the forefront.
Absolutely. We definitely want our astronauts to have a great time and then to come back and get to listen to them tell their journey and again what space is like in on the mission that they're on.
Right, come back. We want to learn from you. We want to know what you saw, what you did. So one last question for you before I let you go. But if you had a message to young girls or just young students that were interested in joining the STEM workforce one day, what would your message to them be?
My message. So you don't have to know everything to get started in this field. You just have to be curious and try. Um, we STEM is all about just solving problems, even when the problems aren't obvious. So you have to keep on with the dedication and keep on looking. I've been very fortunate in this field that I've been able to work under many female engineers, and I deeply admire their passion and their dedication working working in this field. I recognize that it has not been easy for them, and especially to the point that we have gotten to. So they have always encouraged me that I have a voice at the table, and to speak up. And my voice is valuable. Even as a young engineer, I did struggle with that. I also work alongside other people who have empowered me to ask the questions, take the initiative, keep pushing even when it's hard. And that support. You mentioned parents, but even my coworkers. I've worked with some awesome teams, and that teamwork really makes coming to work fun, and knowing that we together can solve the problem. So my last thing would be that I just you know encourage you to pick up the Legos and start building. It's wonderful to see my little one just building with no concept of no, you cannot do that. And it's such a thing that I feel like we miss as an engineer, because we've been told that you can't do it this way. But to see that imagination and that creativity at work is such a beautiful thing. So join engineering camps, design robots, explore museums, and even get to meet astronauts. That really inspires you to keep on going and to maybe find your place in the world as in the STEM field. So I would say the rewards are vast and the opportunities are. I've had incredible opportunities because of the
Yeah.
path that I've chosen.
Oh, I love that. I love that. That was great advice. Well, Saturn, thank you so much for being here. Welcome officially to Grace's Girls Club.
Yay! Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.